It's the final race here at Castle Combe in the Toyo Tires Porsche Championship. Reverse grid for this race. It's going to be exciting to see how Adam Southgate can make it through the pack. It's over to Jake Sanson to take you through the action.
When isn't the reverse grid race the most exciting of the weekend? Well, they've got a lot to live up to race one, I have to say. Matthew Harris and Andrew Baker on the front row of the grid from Gary Goodwin and Kevin Molyneux. James Coleman, Gary Lawrence and Adam Southgate are next as Nick Hull takes no further part in the meeting with a damaged car. Hugh Pert and Gavin Johnson on the 924 grid together. This will be an interesting one as we charge away from the grid straight away. We're on board with Gary Goodwin. Kevin Molyneux immediately makes his bid for the lead. Watch James Coleman. He's surging his way forward straight off the bat and he's going to get alongside the 99. Coleman leads already. He's got past Matthew Harris and is into the lead. So we ride on board with Adam Southgate. That's going to be Harris to our left side that we fly past. Gary Lawrence is through in a second. So Coleman through to the lead. Lawrence through to second. He drifts out wide. Very, very, very wide. Careful, Gary. Get back on. Goodness me. He was lucky to get out of the barriers at Quarry as we ride on board with Gavin Johnson. Chasing after Hugh Pert one more time. But incredibly, it is Coleman versus Southgate in first and second places. This is meant to be a reverse grid race. It's meant to take a few laps to get into that position, not 3 corners. We're on board with Southgate, chasing after James Coleman, the only man to have taken a win off him in 2018. And Coleman looks likely to be challenging for that again in this one. Molyneux third, Goodwin in fourth. Up to fifth comes Lawrence. Gets his way back up the inside of Harris, but he looks like he's going to drift wide through the hairpin. We're on board with Gavin Johnson, who's caught back up to the tail of Hugh Pert. Hugh Pert took his first race victory in the championship earlier in the season and now he is battling for the lead of the championship. He leads the title race at the moment, but Gavin Johnson has got a good run on him as they come up through bobbies, on through the gears again. This is going to be a really interesting battle. Coleman is your leader, Southgate second, Molyneux third from Goodwin, Lawrence, Harris and Baker. And as they charge up the straight over Avon Rise once again, Adam Southgate trying to line up James Coleman for a pass as they come up towards Quarry. In through the right-hander. The two leaders are already stretching out an advantage over Kevin Molyneux, but can Gary Lawrence charge his way back to third position? That's the next big question. As Adam Southgate chases after James Coleman in the lead of the race. They power through the S's. And Adam Southgate already giving James Coleman some pressure. This has been a pretty flawless season for Adam Southgate. All he's got to do now is get onto the back of James Coleman and charge after him once more. He's gaining a lot of ground already on the 00. Speaking of which, battling for the lead in the 924s, Gavin Johnson is making up a lot of ground on Hugh Pert, and it looks as if a pass for the lead is almost going to be inevitable here at Combe. He's got a good run off of the chicane up towards Tower. Can he find a way through on the inside? Well, he's going to break a little bit later than Pert, but not late enough. Pert is going to leave him space. That's the gentlemanly approach. But he's not able to overhaul him yet, Gavin Johnson. This battle could go on a long time between these two. Johnson has taken 2 wins off of Hugh Pert already this weekend. And it looks like he could get another one off him. But he's going to have to be patient if he wants to find a way through. We're back on board as they come up towards camp. Into the final turn. And these two are even closer together as they battle for the lead overall. James Coleman and Adam Southgate battling away. We're on board with Southgate in the Avis Consulting car. Up towards the S's. In through the right-hander. Oh, Southgate having to be a little bit careful there on the brakes as he keeps in there behind James Coleman. He's working incredibly hard to push onto the back of the 00. Meanwhile, Molyneux in third position behind them. There's Southgate as he goes up and over the curbs. Great racing indeed between these two. Southgate actually very nearly puts 2 wheels on the grass there in his attempts to close up on James Coleman. But the 00 leads the way here, for the moment at least. But this is what happened in race 1. He was leading comfortably, and then a mechanical problem crept in and ruined his race and effectively ended any chance that James Coleman might have had of battling for the championship in 2018. But James Coleman is a racer, he's a fighter, he's not going to give up a chance of a victory, and he's got a great one this time. But Adam Southgate is the man battling in. Look, Adam's having to be so careful through the final turn. You can hear the car chirruping away with those tyres screeching and squealing as he got the car stopped through the apex. And now Johnson pulling up alongside Hugh Pert. Is that for the lead? Well, Pert defends beautifully. These are the two drivers who will fight for the 924 Championship in 2018. And still, Southgate hanging on in front of Adam Southgate, who is basically one hand on the trophy for the championship at the moment. He just needs to keep on pounding in these podiums. He's had a victory in every race bar one this year, and that's Lawrence back into third. Lawrence has crept back into third position past Molyneux and Goodwin. So Gary Lawrence has continued his incredible pace here at Castle Combe and managed to get past first Goodwin, then Kevin Molyneux. So it looks like 3 straight podiums this weekend are coming the way of Gary Lawrence, who's had an absolutely superb run here at Castle Combe. It's a real fast driver circuit this, so you've got to be absolutely on it through the entirety of. I don't think Dolly Molly's going to give up a chance of third position without a fight, but there's going to be an amazing battle between these guys as they continue to charge forward. So through they come one more time. There's Molyneux through Bobby's and up towards the run towards camp. So Molyneux still pushing hard, but Gary Lawrence hazing in the sunshine there in third position, doing a fantastic job. And there's Gary Goodwin back in 5th position. Got a podium earlier in the weekend, so he can be happy with the silverware he takes home from that. But this is not quite the same sort of pace he wanted from this third race. He's letting Lawrence and Molyneux go pretty rapidly. But Coleman still hanging on here in front of Adam Southgate as they battle for the victory. Great racing from them still as they come out of quarry. Down the stretch, up towards the S's. We're on board again with Southgate as he charges after Coleman. The 00 in front of us through the S's. Southgate's looking pretty strong as he closes in on Coleman. He's made up a lot of time through the chicane there. As they go through Old Paddock Bend. Southgate working very hard indeed on the back of James Coleman as they come up towards Tower. He looks like he's got a chance here to go for the lead on the inside of the right-hander, but no, Coleman squeezes him out of the chance. He's too close to the middle of the circuit, tightens in on the apex. There's no way he's going to come through there. As Coleman again works very hard indeed there to keep Adam Southgate at bay. He's using a lot more curve than Adam Southgate, I notice actually. James Coleman pushing very hard indeed. But look, he places the car just slightly further across to the right on the approach to quarry, then gets the car lined up for the normal racing line as usual. But it's just enough to keep Adam Southgate a little bit on his toes here. Southgate's got a good run off the final turn though. This could be his best chance yet of going for the lead. He goes left because that's where Coleman sends him. They're going to be side by side. Southgate's got a great run. Oh, there's a little nudge. And Southgate's going to try and go deeper into the braking zone at quarry. Keep the car right round the outside. Johnson, meanwhile, is going for the same move on Hugh Pert. Up the inside through Tower. And he's got through into the lead. So there's a battle for the lead in both classes as Southgate continues to hold the car to the outside. The back end's drifting out and Southgate's lost it. Oh, Southgate has lost the car. He gets it straight back in again. Doesn't even stop the car. Puts the power down straight away and Lawrence is surely going to sail through up the inside. So Southgate is down to third. Careful, Adam. Oh dear. Well, he rather jokingly came up to me a couple of weekends ago and said, now you said I made a load of mistakes last year. I didn't. I made one mistake all season in 2017. I'm afraid I have to point the finger there, Adam, and say that was your one mistake in 2018. So through the chicane, up towards Camp Corner, and now Southgate is all over the back of Gary Lawrence for second position, not for the lead. I'd quite like to see a look at that again, though, because that's a very rare error for Southgate, but that just shows you that James Coleman was working very hard indeed to keep the lead of the race and was not about to give away a victory. Now it's Lawrence versus Southgate. You could hear that buzzing as they came across the curb there. That's the tyres running over that curb. Southgate on the back of Lawrence, battling away for second position. I wonder if we're going to get to see another look at that moment there from those two, Southgate and Coleman battling for the lead. Southgate losing the car into the S's. I think it's just because he got squeezed by Coleman. No contact at all. He just got squeezed to the outside line. And obviously it's very dusty on that part of the circuit. And with Southgate trying to hold the car together and get the car stopped while also being in a battle for the lead, it was very easy to make the mistake. So James Coleman leads the way in the 00. Adam Southgate charging after Gary Lawrence. Down to the inside line. Not close enough yet to Lawrence. Look at how much work he's having to do on the steering. Wrestling with the steering in the first part of the apex there, as they go into the Bobby's chicane once again and up towards camp. Southgate is working very hard indeed here to get back past Gary Lawrence, but Lawrence has been the ultra defender at the moment. He could play for England with this sort of defensive ability. Into the final turn. Plenty of curb. Back on the power once again. Side by side. Southgate's got a good run on Lawrence. Lawrence is going to give him just enough space, but no more than he needs to, and he squeezes across at Folly. That's enough to hold the line and the place. Good work from Lawrence again. Down towards Quarry, and Lawrence this time so much stronger in defence than he had been previously. So it looks to me as though we are going to get a second victory of the season for James Coleman. And I think there's going to be a wry grin from the drivers in the paddock when they realise that for once Adam Southgate isn't going to win one. So Coleman there out in front. The last thing he wants is what happened in race 1. This was the same scenario. It was Coleman from Lawrence and Southgate, and then Coleman had a mechanical problem that ended his race at the S's with these guys battling away. Then Lawrence made the mistake and Southgate was through to take the victory regardless. So this is going to be a very interesting battle as they continue on into Bobby's. Plenty of curb from both drivers as Southgate is again going a little bit faster than Lawrence through that section of the course, but Lawrence is being very crafty on the defence. Holds that inside line once more. So Adam Southgate closing on Gary Lawrence in their battle for second position. They come off the turn and down the straight once again, up towards Folly and through Avon Rise. Southgate is close to Lawrence, but crucially, he's not going to be able to get alongside him before the braking zone for Quarry. So they come up towards the right-hander. Oh, goodness me, Southgate. Massive opposite lock as the curb, as the bump over the top of Avon Rise basically gave him the nastiest wake-up call in history. Goodness me, that must have been a bit like power sliding a jet ski at that point because he was all over the place. Managed to get the car stopped. Well, that's as close as you're going to be to riding a snowmobile in Toyo Tires Porsche Championship racing. The back end was all over the place and a massive twitch on the steering wheel from Southgate corrected it. But James Coleman, 00, out in front, just taking it smoothly at the moment. He doesn't have any pressure here. He just needs to keep it together. The man under all the pressure in the world, though, is Gary Lawrence. Southgate chasing him down big style. Into Bobby's, into the right, into the left. Plenty of curb on the way in and on the way out. And he's come from a bit of a distance back with momentum and with speed. So Lawrence is going to have to be ultra defensive here. And again, he does exactly what he needs to. Pulls across to the right, then pulls back across to the left to get his braking zone lined up for camp. Now back on the power. This is where he's going to need to be incredibly careful. Once again, he sends Southgate to the left side. You've got to do that if you're going to hold on to the lead here at this point of the circuit. Then he pulls back across to the left side. Nothing Southgate can do except follow him. Now watch as they come over the top of Avon Rise. Watch the steering wheel. Into the right-hander. Got to get it lined up nicely, and that's much smoother from Southgate. He doesn't get quite so out of his rhythm as James Coleman is lapping the 924s. So at the moment, no major problems and no major issues as Southgate laps Johnson, who is now in the lead of the race in the 924s, and Lawrence again having to keep Southgate at bay. The Avis Consulting car is absolutely all over the place trying to get past Gary Lawrence. He looks left, he looks right, he goes down the middle, there's no way through. And Lawrence is being incredibly strong and resolute in that second place. Coleman is your leader. Here's the battle for second place behind the 924 leading battle of Johnson and Pert. So there's Lawrence and there's Southgate. Lawrence with the orange wheel rings, Southgate with the orange and white car. So here they come. Let's have a look at Southgate as he makes his move up the inside of Hugh Pert. Well, Lawrence has already got there. Southgate having to leave his a little bit late. And look, you see the way that he had to basically back out of the throttle to complete the overtake. And that's given Lawrence a little bit of momentum. They're going to sweep by Gavin Johnson. This is the speed difference between a Porsche Boxster 987 and a Porsche 924. That is the speed difference right there. You saw it in a perfect demonstration over Avon Rise as James Coleman in the 00 leads the way, and he's getting close to lapping Kevin Molyneux. Now, what has happened to Molyneux? because he is a long way back and is in danger of being lapped by the race leader. Now, I didn't see what happened to Molyneux, but he was in the battle for 4th position at one stage. So I would suspect that he's had an off somewhere, and that's definitely compromised him. There's the race leader, Gavin Johnson. Coleman puts his arm out and thanks Kevin Molyneux for getting out of the way. So all in all, this has been a bit of a nightmare weekend for Kevin Molyneux after the glory of Rockingham. So hopefully he can get it back together again for the next round of the championship. But Adam Southgate running beautifully at this phase of the race, and is looking pretty strong. Lawrence in 2nd place is going to be incredibly difficult to overtake in his current form. He is not going to leave anything to chance as Molyneux gets out of the way and lets these guys through no problem. So they come out of Camp Corner once again, down the start-finish straight. Adam Southgate again trying to get that gap down to Gary Lawrence as close as he possibly can. But this is not going to be easy, and he knows it. He's got to work incredibly hard to find a way past. But that is your race leader. It's been a very exciting weekend for Coleman, not necessarily for the right reasons in race 1, and race 2 was frustrating, but this is much more like it. This is the way he wanted it to go, as Southgate again tries to close up on Gary Lawrence. He's so quick through the S's. That's where he's able to gain a lot of time on Lawrence. The difficulty he's really got is that these straights are not long enough for him to continue his run to charge up alongside Lawrence and then get into the next corner. That's why he's not really able to get on terms with Lawrence, because the straights are not long enough. Well, that is not going to be a problem as they go to the next round of the championship at Anglesey, where there are masses of long straights pretty much everywhere around the circuit. Tight and twisty it's going to be, and very, very exciting it will be too around the Toy Crease circuit. Here's Adam Southgate on the back of Gary Lawrence. What a weekend this has thrown up here at Castle Combe. We've had all of the excitement and all of the thrills and spills you can cram into a Porsche Championship weekend. That first race, one of the best races I have seen in the championship. All sorts of thrills and spills, lots of chaos, and quite a bit of carnage actually. Second race, cut short unfortunately by Nick Hull's trip into the barriers. I can report that he is okay. His car isn't, but he is all right, and that is the good news. And this third race has been a very intriguing one, in which we've seen Adam Southgate pressured into a very, very rare mistake in 2018. Blink and you miss it, and he's there in 3rd position, with James Coleman now leading, Gary Lawrence in 2nd. If Adam Southgate stays where he is, this will be his lowest finish of 2018 though, which just goes to show how strong his 2018 championship campaign has been. If I could walk away from a championship saying the lowest I've finished all season is 3rd, I'd be very happy with it, to be honest. And I think Southgate's going to have that same reaction. A little bit of frustration, but I think he'll wipe it off very, very quickly. If it stays like this, Gary Lawrence is hanging on in the final stages of this race at Castle Combe. And it looks to me as though Hugh Johnson is going to get a clean sweep of victories in front of Hugh Pert. And by my mathematics, if that stays that way in the 924 class, then Gavin Johnson is going to close in on Hugh Pert's championship lead with only 2.5 points between him and Hugh Pert in the Drivers' Championship, which is going to be very exciting heading to Anglesey, where we'll hopefully have a few more of the 924s out there. Been a bit of a difficult weekend this one for the 924s. You can hear Adam Southgate there in the 45, actually on the limiter as he comes up towards Avon Rise. You could hear that little growling noise from the engine. That is him hitting the limiter as he goes up towards the braking zone for Quarry, which you basically enter into at Avon Rise. So it's a heavy braking zone, and you have to brake from a long, long way back. Southgate right over the back of Lawrence. Lawrence again defending. He's got to at this point as they head towards Tower, because Southgate is all over the back of Lawrence and wants to at least snatch 2nd position if he can't get the win, and he's running out of time to do that. He's now got to hope basically that the gates align and the seas open in the same way that they did in race 1, with Coleman dropping out of the race and then Lawrence going wide. But I don't think that's going to happen this time. Adam Southgate looks like he's going to have to settle for 3rd position for once, as he chases after Gary Lawrence with the orange wheel rims as they go out of the final turn and onto the next lap. This has been a great race, a great run for Gary Lawrence. He's had a fantastic weekend here at Castle Combe and a big points haul, which should see him close up on Kevin Molyneux in the Drivers' Championship tally. There you go, you heard it there again, bouncing off the rev limiter, Adam Southgate. And that just shows you how hard he's pushing. Oh, and he's run wide! I'm sorry, Adam, but that's 2 mistakes this weekend. Never mind this season. Adam Southgate pushing very hard on the back of Gary Lawrence, and I'm afraid to say that that has pretty much put the kibosh on it now. 3rd position will have to do. Goodness me, I never thought I'd live to see the day Adam Southgate dropped it. Not once, but twice in one race, never mind one weekend, never mind one championship season. 2018 has been flawless for him, but I guess even the best can make mistakes. As James Coleman continues out on his own, leading the way comfortably here in his final run. And this has been exactly what he wanted to do. He's going to take the victory and finally get a 2nd win of the season. And that's 2 races this year that Adam Southgate hasn't taken the win. He comes out of the final turn, James Coleman, and will receive the last lap board this time by. So James Coleman finally is about to take, he gets a wave there as he comes through. Now that is going to be, I'm not sure who he's waving to there, but whatever you do, James, you're not supposed to wave on the final lap. Oh, that's who he's waving to, Kevin Molyneux. He waves to Molyneux, who gets out of the way. He's got mechanical problems, and he's lapped Molyneux for the 2nd time. So I think Molyneux, sadly, is about to retire from the race. Meanwhile, Southgate has caught right up to the back of Gary Lawrence once again, who is still desperately trying to hang on in front of Adam Southgate as they battle for 2nd place on the last lap. Has he got enough time? Southgate is pushing big time. Back on the power, but James Coleman leads the way. And he's going to take his 2nd win of the season. All he's got to do is hang on to it. Nice and smooth, James. This makes up for the heartbreak of Rockingham. This makes up for the heartbreak of race 1. Coleman's had a miserable season. He deserves some glory. He deserves a positive race result. And a victory here at Castle Combe is proof of what he can do. He's put on a fantastic run this weekend. Taken away from him the victory in race 1, but this time he gets the basket of the glory, and he knows it. He flashes his lights. He's done enough. He knows it. Checkered flag flies, and James Coleman finally takes a win off Adam Southgate. Gary Lawrence in 2nd, Southgate in 3rd. He eases right off the power. Oh well, Adam, at least you got on the podium. Good win in 4th place in front of Matthew Harris and Andrew Baker, with Kevin Molyneux having mechanical problems down there in 7th position. But at least he finished the race, with Gavin Johnson beating Hugh Pert for the 3rd time in a row. Really exciting battles there. And now what does that do in the Drivers' Championship standings? Well, of course, Adam Southgate still leads the way. Molyneux has been caught quite considerably by Lawrence, who's only 7 points back. Hull and Coleman struggled with a couple of DNFs. Ludford is still 6th in front of Baker and Jesse Chamberlain, who we hope will be back in time for Anglesey. In the 924s, Hugh Pert is just 2.5 points ahead of Gavin Johnson, with Rossin, Styron, Jones and Waters still in the top 6 as we head to Toy Crees in Anglesey in North Wales.
James, congratulations on your victory. 2 wins this year. It's starting to pick a bit of pace up now. We're coming to the halfway point of the season.
Yeah, love the circuit here. Really quick in testing. Not a bad qualifying. Tickle behind Adam. So yeah, we knew we were quick here. It was all about tyre management this weekend, where it being so hot. So yeah, really glad we got a win in the end. Tough few laps with Adam. He gave me a good race. Then he made a mistake, span, and I just took it easy for the rest of the race, which is what I needed because it was really hot out there. So just slowed it all down.
Gary, that was a tough 2nd half of the race. How did you keep Adam Southgate behind you?
I don't know, if I'm honest. I mentioned earlier in that first race we made some changes which didn't work, and we went back to where we were, and they certainly did. It was pretty much the same as yesterday. Unfortunately, going into Quarry on the first lap, I got a little bit excitable and went onto the grass, so I had to then go from the back again, having started from the back, which gave the lads a bit of time to sort of put a bit of space into me. When I finally got sort of on the back, well, not even on the back of them, when I was behind them, Adam had a bit of an incident out the back there, which enabled me to take him, and then it was just a case of holding him off the entire race. It was a longer. I remember coming past here with 5 minutes. I thought, I can't believe that. It feels like we've been going for an hour already.